Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into the universal language that, believe it or not, powers pretty much our entire digital world. It's the invisible engine behind almost every app you use every single day. We're talking about SQL. But to really get a feel for its power, let's start with a question you've probably never even thought to ask.
Really think about that for a second. When you pop open a social media app, how does it instantly find your friend's latest posts out of billions? Or when you check your bank account, how does it pull up your balance in less than a second? Well, the magic behind that speed, that incredible precision, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Okay, so the best way to get your head around this is with a simple analogy. Just picture a massive, enormous library where every single book is perfectly cataloged and in its exact right spot. That library, that's your database. So what's SQL? Well, SQL is the special, super efficient language you use to talk to the librarian, to ask them to find, add, or even change any book you need, and they can do it instantly.
All right, so keeping that library image in your mind, let's get a little more specific. What exactly is this language we're using to talk to our super librarian?
Well, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Let's break that down real quick. Structured just means the data is organized super neatly, in tables with rows and columns, kind of like a spreadsheet. Query, that's just a fancy word for asking a question. And language, well, that's the set of commands you use to ask those questions. It's a language built for one very specific job, talking to organized data.
So what kind of things can you actually say with this language? Well, you can ask the librarian to find a specific book for you. You can ask them to add a brand new book to the collection. You could even ask them to update the info on an existing book, or, get rid of one that's no longer needed. And maybe most importantly, you can use SQL to design the library itself, to literally define the shelves and sections where all the books are going to live.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's look at the actual words you'd use. This is where we learn how to speak to our data librarian.
And here's the good news. You don't need to learn some huge, complicated dictionary. The heart and soul of SQL really just revolves around a few key verbs that are incredibly simple and, frankly, really powerful.
The big one, the one you'll use all the time, is select. This is how you ask your question. You basically say, hey, select these specific pieces of information from this specific table where my data meets this condition. It's how you get the exact info you're looking for, nothing more, nothing less. Next up, you've got insert. And yeah, it does exactly what it sounds like. It's for adding new information. So when you sign up for a new app, behind the scenes, an insert command is fired off to add a new row with all your info, your username, your email, into the big users table.
But, data isn't static, right? Things change. What happens when you change your profile picture? That's where the update command comes in. It goes in, finds your specific record, and just modifies that one piece of existing information without messing with anything else. It's incredibly precise.
And finally, of course, we have delete. This is for when data just isn't needed anymore. You delete a post from your feed, a delete command is sent to the database to hunt down that specific post and just, poof, remove its entire row from the table. It's simple, it's direct, and it's permanent. Now these commands, they're not just some random list. They're actually grouped into three little sublanguages. First, you have DML, the data manipulation language. Those are the action words we just talked about for working with the books themselves. Then there's DDL, the data definition language. This is for building the library, using commands like create to build a new bookshelf, or in our case, a table. And last, you've got DCL, the data control language. Think of this as security, the head librarian deciding who gets a library card and who's allowed in the restricted section.
So, we've talked about the language part and the query part of SQL. But honestly, the real secret sauce, the thing that makes it all work so well is that first word, structured. Let's take a look at why that organization is such a game changer.
And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? SQL works with relational data, which is like a perfectly neat spreadsheet. Everything has its place in a specific row, a specific column. The alternative is unstructured data, which is, well, it's like a messy pile of random sticky notes. You can see right away why asking a question of that neat spreadsheet is going to be way faster and way more reliable than digging through a pile of notes. This structure gives SQL some serious superpowers. First off, you've got data integrity. This just means the database itself enforces rules, so you can't put bad or broken data in. It keeps everything reliable. Then there are transactions, which are absolutely critical. Think about a bank transfer. Money has to come out of one account and go into another. A transaction wraps those two steps together, and it guarantees that either both happen or neither does. No money just vanishes. And finally, there's query optimization, which is pure genius. You see, with SQL, you just tell the database what data you want. You don't tell it how to find it. The database itself is smart enough to figure out the absolute fastest, most efficient way to get you that answer. It's kind of brilliant.
Okay, so now that we have a pretty good handle on what SQL is and why it's so incredibly powerful, let's bring it back to the real world. Who's actually using this stuff, and what does it mean for you?
The short answer is pretty much everyone who touches data. You've got software developers using it to build their apps, database administrators using it to keep everything running smoothly, and data analysts who live and breathe this stuff to find important insights. But here's the real takeaway. It doesn't matter what your job title is. If you work with data in any capacity, learning SQL is one of the most valuable things you can do for your career.
One last but really important detail. While SQL is a standard language, different database systems like MySQL or Postgres or Oracle, they all have their own little variations. Think of them like regional dialects of the same language. The basic grammar is the same everywhere, but you might find a few unique phrases or special functions in each one.
But when you boil it all down, it really comes back to this idea. Learning SQL isn't just about managing records in a table. It's about learning how to ask really good questions of data and how to find the answers, the patterns, and the stories that are just waiting in there to be discovered.
So I'll just leave you with this thought. Every single click, every purchase, every interaction we make online creates data. With a language like SQL, you literally have the key to query that vast, ever-growing library of human experience. So what stories would you want to unlock?